Hey there, everybody. Mike La Charite here. Super happy to be with you virtually today for our spring regionals in Atlanta. I am so sorry I could not be there in person. Unfortunately, I threw my back out last weekend and could not get on a plane. So thank goodness for technology and for an awesomely supportive team, still able to come and speak to you guys virtually. So um, really excited to talk about this topic today. I've been passionate about group bookings for a number of years and have a lot of experience in the corporate space. And so I really want to just kind of share with you guys an introduction to group bookings of different types and how these can impact your travel business. All right. So I think the first starting place is what defines a group. So to start out, talking about the hotel space, generally a group would be a minimum 10 rooms per night, okay, for most hotel contracts. An exception would be booking through Groupies or TravelJoy, which we're going to look at today. But by and large, if you go to a hotel, they're going to tell you group space starts at 10 rooms. If you're talking about a cruise, group space generally starts between 5 to 8 cabins and grows up from there. Okay. And within the group space, clients are sort of separated into four different designations. So you have corporate, association, nonprofit, and SMERF. And SMERF is kind of your catch-all for social, military and government, educational, religious, and fraternal events. So that's important because when you bring a client to a hotel or a convention center or any supplier, often there are going to be different sales managers depending on what type of business you're bringing. So it's important to know kind of where they fit in. Okay. So I also wanted to touch on why do we want to book groups? So first of all, for all of us, higher commissions is always a good thing. And you're doing the work to put together a contract or a flexible group that we're going to talk about. And instead of getting one or two rooms, you might get 10 or 100 or 1,000. So the opportunity for higher commissions when doing the same amount of work is awesome. Also, these are large referral sources for additional business. Not only do you have your client who's hosting the event, but you have everybody who's coming to it as an attendee. These are all potential clients for you. Also, groups are generally very stable and predictable. These are clients you can depend on. Once they find a planner, they generally want to stay with that person. They don't like moving around. And so this is business that you can count on year after year, as long as you're doing what you need to do and doing a good job. And also, the planning is pretty easy. Once you get one under your belt, it's pretty much usually move locations, rinse and repeat. So it can be a really just consistent piece of business to help grow your bottom line. A lot of people wonder, where do I go out and find groups? We're travel agents. We're really good at going and finding, individuals who maybe want to go on a honeymoon, but where do I find these kind of bigger groups? Well, first, look in your backyard. Large companies with multiple departments, like sales forces. Often these companies will have, a sales department, a marketing department, an operations department, and often there are different meetings and events for each separate department. So you can find a client once, have one department refer you to another, and again, you're growing just within doing the work to find one. So it's awesome. Large families spread out over a wide geographic area, especially after COVID. I think we all realized how important it is to be together. And so we're seeing a lot of family reunion travel all over the world. Affinity groups. Okay, this is a great thing. Look at social media and find people that are rallied together around a cause or something that connects them. For example, I'm part of a group on Facebook. It sounds silly. It's called Dads Married to Doctors. It is exactly what it sounds like. There's 4,500 of us. We're all dads. We're all married to physicians, and we have multiple events a year that I plan for them. So groups like that can be awesome. Of course, look in your professional network, look on LinkedIn, see who you know, who's going to conferences, who is, whose companies are hosting things. And that's a great place to look, of course. And then there are some really interesting ways you can search Google and other internet sources for groups like this. I have a training on my YouTube. I'll link my YouTube at the end that just kind of goes over some of those things and also some more resources you can find. So lots of places to look out there to build groups, okay? So when we're talking about group bookings, there's generally two different types. There are contracted bookings and there's flexible bookings, okay? Contracted means that you are guaranteeing a minimum number of rooms at a hotel, for example, and they are giving you guaranteed rates. They're giving you guaranteed space. Usually there are significant discounts here. Often there are extra concessions, so you can negotiate things like suite upgrades and complimentary rooms and food and beverage discounts. The downside to a contracted event, obviously, is you're going to face minimums and penalties that you have to hit in order for the hotel to be able to sign that contract with you. So that can lead to some financial risk for your clients. On the other hand, flexible bookings, there is no financial risk. There's no minimums that you have to hit. Unfortunately, with that, you see rates and availability that are subject to change. So this is much like our kind of normal travel business that we work, right? You send a proposal to a client and they get back to you in a week and the price has changed. This is part of a flexible group as well. Also, you generally get fewer concessions and additions in your group because you're not kind of putting as much skin in the game for the venue. Okay. So first, I want to talk about contracted groups. So who are these good for? Generally, these are going to be larger events, that have some history behind them. The history is really important because if you can go to a hotel and say, this client has done this 5 years in a row, here's how many rooms they picked up, here's how much space they used, it gives the hotel some security because they know you have performed before. So they're not taking as big of a risk. They're going to give you a better proposal. Okay. Also, if the client is worried about the hotel rates versus some of the OTAs like Expedia, a contract can be really good. There are clauses you can put in to protect against that, depending, again, how big the event is. That's a big factor in a lot of these things. Groups with concession needs, same deal. Some clients actually depend on some of these things like suite upgrades or complimentary rooms or food and beverage discounts to actually make their bottom line on the event. So if that's a really important thing to the client, then a contract is going to be the way to go. Also, events in major markets during peak times, often a hotel is not going to just give you space, without some sort of contracted agreement. Um, and so like cruise charters and luxury cruise lines like your Oceania and your Seabourn, they're generally going to fall into this category as well, where they are going to require a contract with some sort of a minimum commitment. Okay. So with a contracted group, the general process looks like this. So of course you do your intake at the beginning, you figure out, kind of what the client wants and what they need. Based on those needs, you identify your host cities and your properties that are going to be options for this group. You're going to go out and source your proposals. Once you get your proposals, you're going to get those approved by the client. Then you have to negotiate the hotel contract, sorry. Um, then they can be sometimes. Then you're going to negotiate the hotel contract. You have to get that contract approved by Archer. They're going to make sure you don't miss anything. Then you're going to get that signed and get the deposit paid. And that will confirm the event. Okay, so then the group is confirmed and definite and happening. After that, it doesn't end. You're going to generally work with the hotel or the cruise line on fulfilling the event and making sure everything gets done right. But at the end of it, you get to just kind of rinse and repeat and take what you already did and just duplicate it for the next event. Okay. Couple things in these steps I wanted to really zero in on. So getting proposals can be a little bit of a process. So first, you're going to generally create a request for proposal. This is going to have all the information about the event in it. So a hotel or a convention center or a cruise line can look at it and know exactly what you need. Okay. In this process, convention and visitors bureaus are your best friends. A lot of people look at them as competition, and they are the experts in the destinations that you are sourcing for these groups. Okay. They know all the hotels, they know the activities, they know the restaurants. They will be such a great resource to help you find the right fit, and they will save you so much time and energy. Okay. I like to mention, be realistic with your requests. I have had to educate so many clients who have what we call champagne taste on a seltzer budget or water budget in many cases. And I can't tell you how many clients come in and I've got a group, I've got 20 people and I want 3 comp rooms and I want, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And you want to be a good partner for your venue, your hotel, your cruise. Don't go in with silly things. And so some of it is really educating the client. This is what's realistic based on your group size. Okay. I really like to use Cvent. It is a free software online that you can sign up for, and it allows you to create that request for proposal and send it out to hotels and automates that sourcing process. So I have a training on YouTube for that as well. It is one of my favorite tools for groups, whether you're doing contract or flexible. Really, really useful, especially in the hotel space. Okay. Once you get to negotiating the contract, this can be a very complex process, but don't be scared of it. We have Archer to rely on. They have all of the experience. I have some detailed trainings on YouTube for this that I'm happy to share. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax professional, so it's just based on my own experience, but Archer will be your best friends here, okay? And they will make sure you don't miss anything really important. On that note, all contracts must be approved by Archer before the client signs. So make sure those are sent to Jose and Susie at this email address, and never, ever, 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 ever sign a contract for a client. Okay. You always need the client signature on there because they are agreeing to the terms, not you. You just brought them the options. So that's super, super important. Okay. So let's look at some flexible groups now. These are good for smaller events, generally 10 to 30 rooms or what, hotels are going to be comfortable with. Cruise lines, you have a little more room here to get bigger with more flexibility, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. New events without history are great for these kind of flexible bookings because the hotel's not going to take as much of a risk, neither is the client if your client cannot tolerate attrition risk. So attrition is the difference between the number of rooms that you've contracted versus the number of rooms that you fill. Okay, so let's say you contract 100 rooms and you sell 80 of them. There is 20% attrition. Generally, the contract for a contracted event is going to include an allowable percent of attrition. But if you go over that percentage and you don't fill as much of your block, you are paying penalties. Okay. With a flexible group, you don't have that. So this is great for a client who doesn't want to tolerate that risk. Okay. Again, it's not going to be an option for a really big event, but for a small event who's just starting out is great. Social and affinity groups that are more informal clients are a great fit for this. And planning your own events and tours as a travel agent, I am telling you guys, this is one of my favorite things to do. You take control of your own income. It offers new opportunities for you to get out there and travel with the group. And we have an agent named Michael Norris who's been here since almost the beginning. He has some great trainings on doing this that I will show you guys at the end where to find those. Okay, but try to get out there and do some events and tours and groups for yourself. It is just an awesome way to connect with clients, find new business, find new destinations. And when we're looking at cruise lines, generally the mass market premium cruises, like everything from a Carnival up to a Princess Celebrity, these are going to all be more on the flexible side where they don't require the contracts. Okay. Process outline starts out very much the same. After you've identified your sort of destination or your suppliers that you want to use, there's a few ways to do this. The FunJet has a great tool I'm going to show you through VAX that's called Group Ease, and it makes this process really, really easy. TravelJoy, we'll talk about that. That's another one that makes this process really easy for you guys. And you can also just reach out to the hotels directly using something like a Cvent. And what you want to ask for is a courtesy block agreement. So that means they're going to hold space for you. Generally, they're going to give you a cutoff date that if you haven't sold the rooms by that time, they're going to release them and try to resell them so they can make their money. But they're not going to put any sort of attrition or penalties in there for you. So that's called a courtesy block. You can always request that from a hotel and see if it's something they're willing to do. Okay. Once you figure that out, you're going to set up the online sales page and you are going to push and sell that event as hard as you can until the cutoff date to try and maximize your commission and fill out the group. Okay. So let's look at groupies. Again, this is through VAX, through FunJet as the supplier. What's great with this is you get a dedicated discount off the current hotel rates. Okay, so where we're used to these transient rates kind of climbing and changing as time goes on, and we advise our clients of that all the time. That's still going to be true here. It is subject to change, but you're always going to have a dedicated discount off of whatever the current rate is. Okay. Another great thing about groupies, they have a minimum of 5 rooms. So where most hotels are not going to consider that a group, groupies will make that happen. And what's awesome with that is even at 5 rooms, you still qualify for comp rooms for the planner, for the client, special perks and incentive for attendees, and again, no attrition penalties. So if you're trying to do your own groups or you're trying to create something small for a client, this is a win-win all the way around. Then we have TravelJoy. Now, this is an optional tool, okay? And it's more than a group booking tool. This is a software that travel agents use to manage the whole booking process, intake to completion. So where we're using a lot of job forms, you can do your intake forms, credit card authorizations, you can collect payment info, all sorts of stuff in this platform, okay? So it is a cost. It's $30 a month. So this is an optional thing. It's not something you have to use. It's something a lot of travel agents do use. But their group section is really, really cool. What it lets you do is advertise and sell group space based on packages you've created through other suppliers. So you might go to Vax and create a Cancun trip, and then you can upload that into TravelJoy. And again, you're going to update the pricing as time changes, but it allows you to automate that process and put it somewhere where people can very easily book that group. Also works with cruise lines. So I'm going to show you that in a second. Pricing is subject to change, of course, so you have to update that. But again, with this style, there are going to be no attrition penalties. So if we go back over here and I get rid of that, this is a beautiful page put together by my dear friend, Ashley Albancolli, who you guys are very lucky to be hanging out with today. So all she did was go to the Royal Caribbean website and pulled up a cruise. She set up the group like we normally would. And then she took all that information and copied and pasted it and chat GPT'd it to make it look really good and put it all in here. So everything's here, what's included, what's not, the sailing itinerary, the cancellation policy. And here are the packages that she reserved when she put together the group. So you've got your interior cabin, your ocean view cabin. In this case, you've got the ocean view balcony that was cheaper. That's awesome. And you can see here, she sold them all out. But people can come on here and submit a booking request to you so you can put them into your group very, very easily. This also works, like I said, with Vax, so you can do a trip to Italy or Cancun or whatever, put together a package. You can create multiple options. And they also allow you to do extras like travel protection, gratuities. If you want to do like shore excursions, all of that can be done right through here. So it makes it really, really easy for clients to see what you're putting together, what you're offering, and you can build your very own groups that way. Okay, so TravelJoy is a really, really cool option. I've really enjoyed using it. And if you do decide it's something you want to do, there are lots of people in the company that use it. Find one of them and ask them for a link. It'll save you, I think it's half off the monthly cost for the first 3 months or something. So definitely reach out. Lots of people are using it. Okay. All right, so let's touch on group cruises real quick as well. So we talked a little bit. It starts 5 to 8 staterooms and goes on up to, usually 150 to 200, depending on the ship. And it's people traveling together on the same ship, dates, and itinerary. Now, this can be any type of business, from a family reunion group to an affinity group to corporate meetings and incentive travel, okay? And here's what's really fun about group cruises. They can be from multiple groups, all combined into one. They don't necessarily even have to know about each other because they're not going to interact on the ship. Okay, so for example, I wanted to book a family cruise for 3 or 4 rooms for our different family members to go and do Italy and Greece. And so we booked that, but I set up a group. I advertised it on social media. I sent it out to some other friends. I put it out to my affinity dad's group. I sent it out to a couple other groups I'm a part of. Pretty soon, I was able to combine business from all of these different places and get enough to get a tour conductor credit. And that wouldn't have happened if I was just booking this cruise for myself. You can do the same thing with a client. So you book, a family that wants 2 or 3 rooms, set up a group. They don't even necessarily have to know because it's not going to impact them, except they're going to get some extra incentives out of it. And then you can go sell that on social media and to your other client list and say, hey, I have a great group rate on this cruise right now. And it gives you an opportunity for A, more commission, and B, some tour conductor credit. that you could use for yourself. So benefits of a group cruise outside of that, of course, guaranteed inventory without the risk. So for a corporate client that's used to contracting a hotel for 100 rooms, moving that over to a cruise and not having any attrition risk is absolutely fantastic. Okay, you get discounted fare, you get extra amenities, group perks. So things like, champagne delivered to the room, hors d'oeuvres, little kind of extras like that. Free cabins for the planner, you can pass that on to the client. Sometimes if your group's big enough, special experiences like a private reception or custom shore excursions. And the great thing about cruises, there's lots of upsell opportunities. So many, you can get commission on drink packages, excursions, all sorts of things. So that means more commission for you, okay? So no matter what type of group you book, there's going to be a little bit of work after the booking that you want to pay attention to. So many like corporate association clients are going to have a planner that will handle a lot of this, so you may not have to do it. If it's an affinity group or a family, maybe you need to be a little bit more involved. It's important to figure that out because depending on how involved they want you, you may want to charge a service fee for the extra work outside of the commission, okay? Some of the tasks you're going to be looking at are things like pickup monitoring. So pickup is how many rooms are being booked against the block at any one time. So you might go to the hotel and say, hey, what's the pickup currently against my block? And they will tell you how many rooms have been booked. This is important because A, you want to watch for rooms booked outside the block. So if I know my friend Ash signed up for this event and I don't see her room booked at the hotel in my group when they send me a list, I can ask the hotel, hey, can you search this name? And they'll go find that room. Maybe they booked, but they didn't use the group code. Well, now they can slide that person into your group. So they get the same perks, but you also get the commission now that it's in your group. Okay. So it's important to make sure you get paid for everybody who's attending. Also important for the attrition calculations for the client. So huge thing there. Okay. If you're noticing the pickup is very short, it's important to keep the client up to date as soon as possible. Generally, hotels are setting their kind of goals for the next quarter about 90 days out. And at that point, revenue departments have communicated with hotel leadership, this is how much money we're making next quarter. If you come to them in that 90 days and say, oh yeah, we want to slash our group in half because our pickup's not, high, and we want to minimize some penalties, they're not going to be too happy and they're not going to be very flexible. If I come, 180 days out and say, we're not picking up as well as I thought we were, there's much more opportunity for negotiation. Okay. And so this is a great way for you to be an expert for your client and make sure that you have their best interest at heart and you're saving them money on potential penalties. Okay. So you also want to monitor the cutoff date. At some point, whether it's a contracted or flexible group, any unsold rooms are going to get released and they're going to be able to resell. So many clients forget that cutoff date is coming and they'll keep advertising to their attendees, oh, book your room, book your room. And then people come and they're like, hey, I can't book a room, it's sold out. So make sure, that's something that you want to keep your client abreast of always as well. You can also check hotel reviews, make sure there are no new renovations or pest issues or anything coming up that you want to be proactive about and deal with the hotel. And then at the end, you want to do a room block audit. Again, like I mentioned with checking the pickup, at the very end, you want to have the hotel compare your entire registrant list to their booking list and make sure they find anybody that was booked outside of the room block. That way you get paid and the client makes sure their numbers are satisfied. Okay. You also need to make sure you update your commission tracking form. Very easy to forget, especially after a contracted group, but you want to make sure that's accurate for Archer. Of course, you want to get on a call with the client, determine what went well, what needs to get better, and then jump right into next year and start sourcing again. So it's a beautiful, beautiful process. And I'm telling you, these groups can really, really impact your business. Okay. So a couple places to learn more. I mentioned Agent Michael Norris. He has some awesome trainings on both flexible and contracted groups. Here's his YouTube. You can also check out my YouTube and make sure you ask your mentor for more group trainings. They have a ton and lots of expertise. Also follow the Evolution Travel Cafe page on Facebook. They are constantly bringing suppliers on and doing great trainings in this stuff. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very, very much for listening. I know I talked fast, but I wanted to make sure I communicated all of that. Please feel free to reach out with any questions anytime. And even though I couldn't see you in Atlanta, I hope to see you in Vegas at the convention. Have a great day, everybody.